Did you know that Brawl Stars is currently banned in Vietnam, or that Mortis actually used to be an epic brawler? Well, today we're going to be going over a bunch of completely random and useless facts about Brawl Stars, so let's get right into it. When Brawl Stars was in beta, Gem Grab actually used to be called Smash and Grab, and this was a change made in early March of 2018, and it made a lot of players mad, but the change was understandable since the name Smash and Grab could obviously be taken in different ways. And Brawl Stars was a kids game, so Supercell decided to just play it safe by renaming the mode to Gem Grab, and it has been like that ever since. As everyone knows, Shelly's main weapon is her shotgun, but it is actually a really unique shotgun that is called a boomstick in real life, and it was one of the first shotgun models ever made in the world. Edgar actually has a Bad Randoms logo on his shirt for his default skin, and that is a band inside of Brawl Stars, and they have a total of 8 songs. And it is also pretty fitting for Edgar to wear the shirt because he is considered to be one of the worst randoms you can get in a game. Mortis actually used to be an epic brawler in the game during the beta phase, and he was actually only epic for just over 2 months before his rarity was changed to mythic, and it has been like that ever since. Brawl Stars used to be called Project Laser before it ever went into beta, and it was called that between 2015 and 2017, and while the game looked completely different, you can still see some similarities and get the overall resemblance of Brawl Stars, which is really cool. Gene was actually the first ever brawler to be released after the game was global launched, and a surprisingly high amount of people think that it was actually Leon, but he was released just a week before the game global launched. Only 2 brawlers have ever had their names changed, the first one being Rico, who used to be called Ricochet, and the second one being Ruffs, who used to be called Colonel Ruffs. And the interesting thing about Rico is that he has a skin called Ricochet, which was free for a little bit as a gift. Brawl Stars and all other Supercell games are actually banned inside of Vietnam, meaning players there are unable to download and properly play Supercell games without using something like a VPN. The reason for this is because Vietnam has strict rules when it comes to games, where Supercell would be required to give everyone's data and also restrict gameplay for people under 18, and Supercell obviously didn't want to have to take people's personal data or modify their game to restrict gameplay, so they decided to just not release their games there. The arrows on Stu's helmet actually point in different directions for his normal player model and his GG pin, which is really interesting, and I think the reason for this is that the up arrow is meant to represent positivity, which is what that pin is obviously about. Nita used to be able to spawn in an infinite amount of bears with her super before the devs realized it was way too overpowered, and they added a limit to the number of bears. Very early on in the game, it was actually possible to complete Brawl Stars. This was because they had actually set a limit on the number of trophies you could earn for each brawler, which was set at just 500, and there were only 16 brawlers in the game at the time, so if you do the math, then that meant the max trophies was only at 8,000, and people reached that a lot quicker than the devs anticipated, so it was soon removed. Supercell's first game started on Facebook, and since then many of their other games also have options to connect to Facebook and log in using that. But that feature was removed for Brawl Stars in 2021, seemingly out of the blue. The first time Penny was in an actual loading screen was in December of 2021, and she was so far back in the picture that most people just never even noticed. But it was a big deal since she had been in the game since 2018, yet this was the first time she actually got into a loading screen. Elixir is a common resource across Supercell games like Clash Royale and Clash of Clans, and it also used to play an important role in Brawl Stars until it was removed. Elixir was an important currency, and it was what was used to upgrade the different statistics of the brawlers. When Brawl Stars was first launched, it had the tap to move option, which is where you would tap the spot on the screen that you wanted your brawler to move to. Obviously, you can see how this kind of limits the movement and is much harder to use in the joystick controls that people use now. The tap to move controls were pretty old and got removed very early on in the game. Clubs were actually called bands when the game first came out. This is because Brawl Stars was very focused on a Wild West theme, like I mentioned earlier, but as it started shifting away from that, a lot of things changed, including the name of what we all know as a club in the current game. This was really just to fit the newer theme with things like cities and other modern things. The face of BB's bat was removed on iOS devices for some reason, most likely a glitch, but it ended up getting added back once people started to notice. In the current version of Brawl Stars, you will only find the mount and corresponding prices when you buy gems in the shop, but that wasn't the case before. These gems used to have special names. Things like pouch of gems, fishful of gems, and so on used to be on each gem pack, which made them feel a little more special, but Brawl Stars have now removed that and it's just a number of gems now. Pam actually used to be called Mama J. Now this wasn't actually something that fully made it into the game. Instead, it was something shown in the dev build when the devs were showing Pam, and over there they had her name as Mama J. But when she ended up getting added to the game, her name was officially Pam, since the devs thought that was better than having her called Mama J. When PowerPoints were introduced to replace Elixir, it came with a limit known as the PowerPoint cap. There were tons of different ways for players to get PowerPoints since they are one of the most used and most common currencies in the game. PowerPoints are usually saved and used to upgrade brawlers to the next power level. However, a player could only have a maximum of 4,000 in their account before it was later increased to 99,999 on October of 2023, and 3 weeks later the limit was completely removed and players could now have as many PowerPoints as they wanted. Tick was actually supposed to be a mythic brawler. When he first came out, he was put with the mythic brawlers despite him being shown as super rare, which most likely means that he was programmed to be a mythic, but it got changed last minute and they just forgot to change that part. 8-Bit is the only brawler to actually have a number in its name. Gus's default skin used to show him holding the full balloon, but it was later updated so that the balloon went longer and it would now be partly out of the frame. In July of 2020, the design on the back of Bull's jacket was changed from a circular human looking skull to the skull of a bull because you can see the horns on the sides. One of the voice lines for using Poco Super is Power Chord, but this doesn't really make sense because his normal attack is also called Power Chord. The white crow skin actually used to be a part of the Cursed Pirates collection, but it was removed as a lot of players thought that it just didn't fit the overall theme. The Logmas skin for Spike is actually based off of the infamous log in Clash Royale and Clash of Clans, and is one of the few things that ties all three of these games together. Spike is the only brawler in the game to not have any voice lines, and it is confirmed that he will never get any voice lines even in the future. There used to be a bug with the Captain Crow skin that would cause the poison to actually stack, making it way more powerful and actually made the skin pay to win. Cordelius has actually never received a single buff. He has just received 5 nerfs to his stats and abilities and nothing really positive. Chester has gotten 3 times more nerfs than buffs, with him having 6 nerfs and 2 buffs, with all of those nerfs coming at the exact same time. The Toon Spike skin is actually based off of the Powerpuff Girls cartoon.